Okay, so welcome to our Empathy Cafe. This is the reminder, this is the call is recorded and everybody's agreed to that. It's a 2-hour call and I'm going to try to go faster through this. Usually we go through our intentions, setting our intentions, and actually let me share the screen here. And and excuse me, I have just getting over a cold, so my voice is rather froggy. So this is just a reminder, the call is recorded. We're gonna, the parts of the Empathy Cafe is, we're gonna review our intentions, have some personal introductions, and we'll review how the empathy circle works, but since most people know it, we'll just give just a very short introduction to that. And then the main part of the call is to divide into breakout rooms. So we have small groups of about 4 in a circle. So you have really a lot of time to share and talk. And then we'll end about 15 minutes before the end for coming back into the full circle for a debrief. And just quickly to go over our intention here in the group is to build a culture of empathy. And that means to have mutual support so that everyone here feels like they've been mutually heard, seen, and understood to your satisfaction. And it's also to learn and practice and deepen your active listening skills. And we also try to train people in these skills and to become an empathy circle facilitator. And the first step really for becoming a facilitator is to take part in a couple empathy circles. You take part in, maybe 2 or 3 empathy circles and you're really ready to facilitate one yourself. And also we're trying to promote the practice, kind of get it out as widely as possible into the society. And especially if you're part of XR, if you can take this back to your local XR group or, your family or wherever, really want to kind of spread this practice of the empathy circle as widely as possible. So we're going to start with our introduction. So your name, your location, if you are part of Extinction Rebellion, maybe what group you're in. And since everybody's agreed to be recorded, we don't need to share that. And I'm going to stop the sharing. And then we have a little chore here of dividing into breakout rooms. So I'm going to set that up. And we're how many? 1, 4. So we're going to be 3 rooms. And we're going to do that. I have to just a second create the rooms. So Carolina, would you just call on people, and while you're doing that, I'll divide people into rooms just to do the introductions. And Marta, would you facilitate one? Would you be willing to facilitate one? Okay, great. You'll be facilitator.
Okay, so I will model introduction. My name is Karolina Kubiak. I'm calling from Poland. I am a member of Extinction Rebellion local group here in Poland. And I'm also a member of Empathy Circle Team work group. Before we start introductions, I see Maria. Maria, we are recording. Are you hearing? Do you hear us? Maria? Maria?
Yes.
Okay. We all agreed to record this meeting. Are you okay with that?
I am. I'll only be able to stay on for a minute or 2, though, unfortunately.
Okay. So now let's continue our introduction. I will follow my screen. So first is David. David, would you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is David, and I'm currently located in Alabama, United States. What else do I say?
Are you in XR or not?
I'm not in XR, no.
Okay, thank you. So next, maybe Samantha.
Um, I'm in Australia, so it's 5 in the morning. So which
Oh
is
my
I'm
God.
keeping my eyes closed some of the time because the screen is it's quite intense. Yeah, so I'm near Melbourne. Um, I'm involved in the local group. My town's about an hour from Melbourne, and a little bit trying to share empathy circles and nonviolent communication. Or yeah, I've been sharing some of those tools in XR. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm impressed by your commitment at 5 a.m. Okay, Richard.
Hello, I'm Richard. At the moment, I'm in Berlin, Germany, and I have no direct connection with XR, although I'm kind of working on a virtual reality, or actually an extended reality application, which is related to XR. And my background is nonviolent communication, so that's my background.
Okay, thank you. Bob, would you introduce yourself? Bob?
Hello, I'm Bob Brown from Thousand Oaks, California. And I am not an active member of XR, but I am hoping that the movement will come to my area and I can take part. And I am a pilgrim on the journey to wholeness.
Thank you. Sophia?
Is my sound on?
Yes.
Yeah. My name is Sophia. I'm not a member of XR, but I'm a member of some groups that are for alternative options to antidepressant. So a more holistic view to healing different kinds of illnesses.
And you are calling from
I'm
Sweden?
calling from Sweden, yeah. And my background is MDC.
Okay, thank you. Amy, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm calling from West Cork in Ireland, where I'm involved in the local XR group. We've since the latest rebellion, we've started a regenerative culture circle, which I seem to be kind of facilitating. So I'm trying to skill myself up so I can bring stuff back to the group.
Okay, thank you. Corey, I hope I pronounce right your name. Corey?
No, you're fine. So I'm Corey. Hope you can hear me. I'm in the south of County Kildare in Ireland. More or less in Amy's situation here, after Rebellion Week, XR Kildare really started to get a bit of momentum behind it. So we're setting up a regenerative culture group. And yeah, I'm helping to facilitate a lot of the Empathy Cafe. We already have a activity planned. And so I've been part of Empathy Cafes before, especially during Rebellion Week. I worked a lot with Sinead and Anna. And so just, trying to help out a bit more. I'm going into eco-psychology, so I think that there's a lot here that I can bring into my career as well. So.
Okay, thank you. Marta.
Hi, I'm Marta. I live in Cork, Ireland as well. I'm involved in XR here. And yeah, I've got a background of science, but nothing like this. This is very nice.
Thank you. Next on my screen is Lana. Lana, would you?
I hope you can hear me. So I got invited by Corey, who spiked my interest when I heard about the Empathy Cafe. And like him, I'm living in Ireland, part of XR Kildare. But no background in anything. I've just started.
Okay, thank you. Elle, Elle, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Elle. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm in Lancaster in England today, although I'm mostly involved in XR in Leeds. My background is this and that, right? I've done some MVC, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you. Bill? Hello, Bill.
Hi. Yeah. My name is Bill, oddly enough, and I live here in Northern California, and I'm a retired special education teacher, and I would say my scientific background is eclectic.
Okay, and you are not in XR, or yes?
I'm taking the facilitators training and things like that, but I'm sort of exploring it. I'm definitely a member of the Empathy Circle group and the Empathy Tent, and then I'm seeing exactly how that fits in with what XR wants.
Okay, thank you. And Maria.
Hi. I'm a member of XR Kildare in Ireland. Since its launch back earlier on this year, I'm a co-rebel with Lana and Corey. And unfortunately, I won't be able to stay on here because I'll be working in a few minutes, but I'm really interested in what's happening. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you. And the last one is Edwin.
Okay, I'm Edwin Rutch. Started the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy about 12 years ago, and I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area near Berkeley, California, and am part of the Extinction Rebellion Empathy Circle work group, and sort of part of the local XR here in the Bay Area. So we want to go into just gonna do a very short explanation of how the Empathy Circle works. Ideally, you can get more information. There's a couple of videos, kind of real step by step. I don't want to take the time, to go in too deeply into it, because we want to get into the breakout rooms as soon as possible. And that's really, it's sort of just doing it, I think, is the best way to learn it. And most of the people here, I think, are familiar with the practice. So at the core, we're going to be in groups of about 4 or 5. And one person is going to be the speaker. They're going to select who they speak to. And you'll get 5 minutes to share on the topic, which is going to be, what is your vision for the future? What is the type of culture you would like to live in? And culture and world. And you can also talk about anything else that's alive for you. So you don't have to stay on topic. If you have something else that's really a burning issue for you or topic, you can talk about that too. So you're always free to talk about that. And so then you'll speak to someone on, select who to speak to. You'll speak a little bit. That person will be the active listener, and they will reflect back their understanding of what you have said until you feel like you've been heard, and then you'll say some more, and then they'll reflect back. So you'll say an idea or two, pause, and that person will reflect back. And then once your time is up or you don't have anything else to say, you can say, I feel fully heard. Then the listener becomes the speaker, and they select who's going to be the listener for them, and they speak in the same way. And it goes around like that for the time allotted. And if you haven't, well, it's good to start the circle with people who have done the practice. So just by observing, you'll be able to see how it works. And we have 3 breakout rooms. There'll be 5, I think, in 2 of the group. Oh yeah, Elle, you're muted.
Sorry, I was kind of putting my hand up to remind myself to ask you something when you finish. It's not a direct point.
Then, well, that's the essence of it. When we get started, Carolina will be facilitating one group, and you can do the recording. Martha will facilitate another, and perhaps Bill, you'll be in that group and you can do the recording. I gave you permissions to record in that group. And then if you haven't done the process, perhaps you could be the first speaker and speak to the facilitator, and they'll reflect back, get sort of a sense of how it works. So that's it. We're going to kind of jump right in. So did you want to say something else?
Yeah, I missed the beginning, obviously, but are you recording it just is it going to be available online, the recordings? Or
yes. It's just posted. It's for educational purposes. So.
Okay.
Meeting in progress. I need to go.
But is there the option to be in a breakout room that isn't recorded, or?
There is, that is that what, Misty? Is that?
Yeah, I think I'd like to also be. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware it was so much kind of XR stuff coming up, and I'd like to not be recorded.
Okay. Ooh, that.
I'm sorry about bringing that up later.
Yeah, let me move it. I have to move you into different rooms. So there'll be one room with Carolina that's not recorded, and let's see. Usually we start off by asking who wants to be in a recorded, non-recorded room, and then we can put you in right away. So, okay, so the room with Carolina will not be recorded, and Misty and Elle will be in that one. So, okay, so we're ready to go. We'll just go into the rooms and remember the topic. Just what is the future of the vision that of the world you would like to live in? And here we go, open all rooms, and a quarter till we'll end and come back into this.
I'm stuck with you, Edwin.
Yeah, and Richard, and breakout rooms. And where did Richard go? And I also, So, who wants to start? Select who you like to speak to. And, and timekeeping, 5 minutes. I'll get this. Do you have a clock?
I can do times if you want.
Okay.
So just 5 minutes, and then I'll just kind of give a sign when the 5 minutes is up.
Sounds good. I got to keep a little eye on the breakout rooms, make sure everything's working here. But so anybody want to start? Perhaps speak to me, and I'll reflect just to model it. I don't know, Lana, if you haven't done this. So, okay, you can kind of watch. Well, I'll speak to Richard then, since just so we'll model it. I'm excited about this topic. It seems like a lot, more people came to this meeting than other meetings. So it seems to be there's a interest in sort of more of a visioning type of a topic. So I'm kind of excited about that.
What I hear is that you are excited. I can also see in your face that you're enjoying it. You enjoy that there are more people than you expected, and there is some energy which you enjoy.
Yeah, what I like about it is it ties in with kind of the direction I'm wanting to go, as I mentioned before, is to articulate more what a culture of empathy is. I think, instead of just being critical about things or saying we need to do this or need that we need a real vision of the type of culture we want to live in. And I'm calling it a culture of empathy, placing empathy at the center of the culture. And, building a whole, picture of what that world would look like with empathy at the center of the culture so this is not quite that, but it's in that same, it's sort of aligned with that kind of project I want to work on. So that's another thing I'm kind of real excited about.
Yeah. So what I hear is that what you like is that empathy is in the center, and that it's also kind of a positive formulation of what empathy is. Yeah, and what I hear is that you enjoyed it. So many people came out for that.
Yeah. And so, you know, what I'm, so that what is a cult, you know, for about 12 years, I've been working on this topic of a culture of empathy. And I kind of struggle with the writing, you know, being it, but I'm trying to find a way of really articulating it, you know, what is it, and being able to write it up in a coherent way. So we started a work group on Mondays where we're just getting together just to vision this and then maybe to write up some of these ideas. And actually, I thought of inviting you to that too. I thought you'd be a perfect person because I really appreciate, you know, kind of your insights and groundedness around this topic.
So what I hear is that you also are writing, kind of formulating, and that there is a Monday group, and that you also appreciate that you were about to ask me, and that you appreciate groundedness and overview.
That you have, yeah. Kind of, so yeah, I feel fully heard. Thank you. Yes, Lana?
Question. What happens if you get it wrong?
Oh,
Or if you don't.
The person just says it back again. You
Okay.
just say it again. You as the listener, as a speaker, you speak until you feel that they have it right. If they don't have it right, you just say it again because you want to hear back that they really understood you to your satisfaction as the speaker.
Yeah, usually after you reflect, the person that you reflected on will say, I feel heard. If they don't feel heard, they'll probably repeat it or something, what they just said.
Yeah.
And we have a sign for that. So if it's wrong, you get this sign.
You've outdone yourself, man.
Okay, that's. Oh, actually, I can tell something about. Would you like to reflect me, Lana?
Yeah, we can give it a go.
Yeah. Yeah. So vision. First, kind of, I noticed that there is something else that's kind of on my mind right now. So I notice I'm not sure if I want to dive completely into vision. There is another project that I'm doing around XR, which kind of I feel excited to share. So kind of I take the freedom of the liberty to talk about that.
Okay, so you're excited about something else, and you'd like to go further into that, what you're passionate about right now and is on your mind, part of the XR community or XR.
And I went to a hackathon. It's a kind of a computers, mostly young computer nerds sitting together and hacking. And it was called XR, from extended reality, kind of virtual reality. And it was kind of, for me, it was interesting, like, hey, there's XR, extended reality, and extinction relation. And to make the whole story short, I ended up making an extinction application, which I'm really excited about. Kind of, there is some really weird thing that's kind of fun to make an extinction application, extinction app.
So you went to a hackathon, which XR, and not part of XR itself, but you said extinction. Sorry.
Extended reality is kind of virtual
extended reality. Sorry, and that connected with XR, so you created an extinction application.
Yeah. And what the application is about, you see in virtual reality, you got those glasses on. I think I have some here. You get those glasses on. And then you see literally a world that's going extinct. So you see all kinds of symbols where things go bad. So you see Earth turning around, which goes slowly into flames. You see animals kind of, and at some point they will just explode, kind of in a visual way. And the intention is with people to ask, like, okay, if this gets too much, you put your glasses off. So there's actually an app that you. I invite people to not watch it till the end, because it's about extinction. And one of the things, there's also a video of this story of the frog that's being boiled. And the frog, you know, the story is if you put frog in hot water, it jumps out. And if you put it in cold water and you turn the heat on, then the story is that you boil it. And I found it on the internet. I found a video who kind of shows that. It is a fake video, but it shows that. But in the video, it looks real. And then for me, kind of what I really find interesting is offering people something to watch and say, okay, this is symbol for extinction, and say stop when it's enough. And until now, almost nobody says stop. Everybody wants to see it till the end. And for me, that's kind of a symbol what I also see happening with other things.
Okay, so you created this app with extinction. So you go basically into the virtual reality of how you see the world ending, going extinct, where the world goes into flames and these animals start dying. Then you also talked about a frog, where if you put it into hot water, it will automatically jump out because it's too hot. But if you put it into cold water, it stays, and then you slowly raise the heat. And then you also are surprised that people want to finish watching, even though you encourage them not to finish watching the extinction application to the end, the virtual reality. You're actually encouraging people to stop beforehand, but you're surprised that people do see it to the end.
Yeah. So one thing that I'm doing is I make the end even worse. So at some point that it also gets turning, that you physically have to put it off because you cannot see the world turning anymore. And then that's kind of what I find interesting for myself. I also want to do that as a kind of an addition to XR, and to stop people on the street and saying, okay, now stop, sit down here and watch this film. And because it's virtual reality, I have the impression that people might actually do that. And then give them the instruction to say, okay, if it gets too much, say stop. And then afterwards talk about it, hey, kind of in a way, did you say stop? And how much do you see this? How does this really relate to current reality? Isn't that what we all are? Aren't we all those frogs who are just sitting there and watching while, oh, there's another animal extinct, oh, there's another species extinct?
Okay, so what you want is, shall I reiterate?
Yeah.
So what you want is that this app goes in connection with XR, that you use it on the street so people can watch it and say stop when it gets too much, and then afterwards talk about it, how they felt and what was happening.
Yeah, and I also see it as a kind of an alternative stop form, kind of. So that's.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for reflecting.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So now you choose, perhaps David, who hasn't spoken yet. So give
David. Okay, so I talk about something else. You said how we see the future and communities and stuff. And I've just started tapping into XR farming. And we were talking a lot about creating a community that helps each other and works together, and that you give a lot more than we do now. Now we use the system, we rely on it heavily. But if something would happen to the system, for example, food shortage, we would suffer from it, and becoming more independent about how we source our own food and coming out of the system. And that's on my mind at the moment, because I spent about 2 hours yesterday researching into this, the XR farming and all that. Sorry, that's rambling.
No, that's fine. Yeah, you were talking about what's on your mind right now is you are participating in like XR farming type project, and your main focus with that is like self-sustainability as far as food is concerned.
Yeah, and for me that would be a really important step in the future, is being self-sufficient and being able to teach others as well how to farm. So I'm thinking about delving into this, helping out on the weekends with local farmers, and raising awareness that we should be more independent and less reliant on the system that we've created that could fail at any time.
Just to be clear before I repeat,
Yeah,
when you say the
sorry,
system,
I don't know how to,
no, that's fine.
yeah.
I'm just for me to repeat, I have to understand. Like when you say the system that we created, you mean like the society as in our society as a whole, or not? Okay.
Yeah.
So what you said is that you think it's very important to promote for self-sustainability reasons to teach people how to farm. So you've been working with that in connection with XR as an alternative, just in case like the world systems of farming and food distribution don't work as well anymore.
Correct. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'll just keep going around the circle. Edwin?
Listening.
Let me, I got to time myself too. There we go. As you know, Edwin, that, I mainly participate in these empathy circles due to when I was living in California, and I saw a lot of like censorious activity, like censoring activities of the far left with conservatives. And I saw a very large lack of dialogue and a lot of misunderstanding coming about that. And for a long time, I was sort of like your token right-wing guy that would show up at the circles.
So you're just sharing how you got involved in the empathy circles, and that you were sort of the right wing token person for these views. Most of the people that have been on the left, and you were kind of, what your concern was is that the left wasn't listening, or there wasn't dialogue.
My concern is they were actively censoring and deplatforming people and stuff.
So the far left is actually censoring people, not listening, and deplatforming. And
yeah, and so that's my main concern. I mean, I'm like, as far as like things that are important to me as the greater whole is concerned, as an American, I think a lot of this has to do with me being American, is that I'm very pro free speech no matter what. I think being able to communicate clearly with people that you disagree with will solve a lot of problems.
So free speech is very important to you, especially as an American, and that you can solve problems through free speech.
Yeah, and I see the empathy circles as a good container for people who might not disagree with each other. That's the reason. That's the point of speech for our free speech amendment here in America. Is that you don't need an amendment for free speech if everyone agrees with each other. It's made for people who don't agree with each other.
So you see that the First Amendment for free speech was for people who disagree with each other, that they can all speak out. And you're also seeing this container of the empathy circle as a container for holding those type of dialogues.
Yeah, especially with ideas of promoting like hate speech laws and stuff. I think, and basically a lot of people taking advantage of that, basically labeling any speech that they don't like as hate speech. I found that very, very Orwellian, so to speak, like very 1984-ish. And I felt a need to get involved with that. So that's my main cultural concern.
Yeah, so your real concern, or even main cultural concern, is that people's speech is being suppressed by calling it hate speech, and it's just kind of being used as a tool to shut down speech, actually.
Yes, and I try to, as a practice of humility and just being reasonable, assume that I don't know everything. So like I don't really have a clear. I try not to have a clear vision of what the culture is supposed to look like. I feel like that is not. I shouldn't be allowed to do that. I think it could be a big problem if you have some person who tries to take over like all the power structures, who has a utopian like vision of the world. I mean, I think Hitler kind of had that mind frame. I'm very weary of idealistic utopians that really want to control everything.
So you have a real concern about the sort of having a vision that's an idealized vision, and then forcing everyone, through with authoritarian means like Hitler, to make that world, to realize that world.
Yeah, like I just believe, for me, the most important thing is to reiterate is free speech. I get to learn, I get to teach. I might enable to tell something to someone else that they're able to learn something from that. and it's just an ongoing dialogue. And who's to say what my vision is supposed to be the vision? Who's to say X person's vision is supposed to be the vision? And as far as the XR stuff is concerned, I personally, I don't see any like catastrophic, like world-ending thing, especially from fossil fuels. The only thing I could think of that humans can do that would really destroy this planet irreversibly is like full-on nuclear warfare. Outside of that, I think this planet can handle a lot more than people think.
So you're not seeing any sort of total. Oh,
my time's up. But you can.
Okay. Somebody just might be joining us in a second. I'm not sure if they're coming late or what. Not joined. It's so you don't see like a climate catastrophe, a sudden overall climate catastrophe that wipes out the world. You see, it could happen with nuclear, but you don't see it happening with climate through kind of global warming or something.
Yeah, that's my little spiel on XR. You know, I figure I'd bring that up since I'm surrounded by XR. So, yeah, and that's I have more to say, but that's my time.
Your time's up. And hi, Martina. You're just joining us. You can just observe for a little while to see how this works. And so I'll speak to Lana. You're muted. I always like when David's here because he gives sort of the conservative point of view, and I always find it refreshing. You know, I feel kind of sad that we don't have more, you know, kind of spectrum, you know, on the political spectrum taking part in these circles.
So you're glad David's here to create a more diverse environment for all of us. Is a lot, as we've mentioned, our left wing.
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah, I do see that as a problem with the left. I mean, it's sort of a disappointment for me that you know, in terms of the left doing things like David's talking about, is sort of shutting down speech and not putting this dialogue front and center, you know, and being very inviting about dialogue and just yeah, so I feel kind of sad about that because that's kind of what I value as well.
So what you value is free speech, as David does, and what you are disappointed about is that maybe left wing, the XR community, is shutting down this kind of free speech and not listening to people properly.
Yeah, but I would actually take it a step farther. It's not just free speech, but free empathy. I think we need like a free empathy movement as well, where people are, it's like you can, because everybody's speaking, there's plenty of free speech actually, but people aren't listening. So it's really, and then they're not mutually listening either. So I think we need to sort of upgrade the free speech to be mutual speech, mutual listening, mutual empathy. And I think that's what the empathy circle does as a container. It sort of models that.
So you don't just mean the free speech, but also free empathy and mutual understanding so that you listen and you are also heard. So it's not just about listening, but it's empathy and hearing people, what they are actually saying.
Exactly.
And it goes both ways.
And that's what we've been trying to bring into XR, for example. You know, we worked with some of the groups in the UK about bringing empathy circles into the movement. And it's sort of on the periphery, you know, it's sort of in there, but it can go either way, you know, and it can be like kind of an eco-fascism, you know, is also a possibility that the group can go in that direction. Some of the foundations, I think, are democratically oriented, you know, with people's assemblies. And there's an openness of people's assembly as, you know, everyone is invited. So that has a very democratic, dialogic, you know, core, but it can also go in other directions too. So it's a bit of a struggle between sort of empathic, I think, and maybe more authoritarian directions. So, and I'm trying to push as a vision is this dialogic, empathic, you know, direction is sort of the vision that I have.
So you think Empathy Cafe is the way forward from going to a too much left wing, or how you said that it's just XR is concentrated on this one eco vision and nothing else is okay, and being democratic and listening to everyone.
But I
and
think
that they should bring this more into
mm-hmm.
their principles and foundations.
Yeah, and I mean, there is that quality within XR, and that's why I'm, been involved in it, because there is a democratic quality to XR. So, but I see it in some areas it's not. Like here in the San Francisco Bay Area, none of the leaders will take part in an empathy circle. I specifically invited them, would you take part in an empathy circle? And they said, no, we don't have time for it, not interested. So that I kind of mistrust, people who are not willing to sit down and dialogue. So I still keep working at it, but I do have, I kind of mistrust the organization if they're not willing to sit down and dialogue.
Okay. So, sorry, I just blanked there. You've experienced where you're from, that Extinction Rebellion, the leader, so to speak, or the organizers, as we'd rather call them,
mm-hmm.
aren't willing to go into these empathy phase, blaming it on time, and you think that's a reason to mistrust them because you feel they should be involved in creating more empathy and listening to each other.
Exactly. Yeah. So that my vision, going forward is that there's more dialogue, more of this type of dialogue where people listen to each other, and that's a real focus of society, that we really need that value, throughout society. And so that's kind of the core of my vision for the future.
So your vision for the future is doing something like this, but extended. So not just people that come in because we want to come, but to the entire society.
Yeah, I feel heard. You broke up a little bit at the end there, but yeah, it's your turn.
Oh, I don't know what to say.
Well, you can select whoever you want to, and you can say, I don't know what to say. Just start,
Okay, Richard then, because David, you've listened to me. So I hear what David's saying, and I completely agree that we need to hear from both sides. And just today, for example, at work, I mentioned XR, and a colleague of mine said that her son, a 15-year-old, is completely against climate change and in denial of it. And instead of going, that's not true, going against it, what I hear some people saying is, I thought it would actually be really valuable to hear his side and why he believes that climate change is not real, or what he actually believes in and why, so that we could work together on a solution, because we're not against each other. We need to create a community that listens to each other and is there for each other.
So what I hear is that you say that you agree with David, and that you also had a colleague who has a son from 15 years old who doesn't go with the climate change narrative, and that you also can imagine talking with him and also hearing his voice, and that it's also important for you that every voice gets heard and that we can learn from each other.
Exactly. I think listening to each other is really valuable in finding faults in our own beliefs and changing them, because even if you believe one certain thing, you can still change and evolve and grow with knowledge. And I think that's important, that no one is too stubborn, stur, sorry, that's German, too stubborn to change their perception on things and their knowledge, but to keep expanding, keep growing, and doing this as a community, finding solutions and a way forward to a more peaceful world.
So what I hear is that you see also that listening and respecting each other's views, that it's a way for a community to grow and to develop. And
yeah, and that's why I'm here to start with myself, is learning to listen, and also how to frame my ideas and my knowledge. I find that very difficult to, especially with the family, talking to them about my ideal or my ideas and knowledge. And that's why I'm doing these kind of workshops, seminars, training to expand my own knowledge to become better.
yeah, so what I hear, that's also the reason why you're here, and also I see a big smile on your face constantly, so you're also enjoying it here.
A bit uncomfortable.
to practice and to develop yourself and to also maybe become an example of what you believe in.
I feel heard. Thank you.
Yeah. So David, would you like to reflect me?
Do I have a choice? No, I'm just kidding. I'm listening.
So what I hear is that you ask. Yeah.
I do that. I mess with people.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go back to vision. What I see is that we're also getting into a vision how people relate to each other, and how a society kind of structures or supports that. So I find it an interesting thing to hear different elements, like, okay, how do we envision that people communicate with each other? So that's the direction that I sense.
So the direction you sense from me is a vision on how people communicate with each other, which is basically what I was getting at.
Yeah, from us all. So kind of, I feel that we are all kind of in this thing like the vision.
Okay, so you're saying what you're picking up from all of us here is a vision of how people are should or can communicate with each other.
Yeah. And also how that can be facilitated, or what structures can facilitate that people feel heard, grow together. And so I find it an interesting thing to say, okay, or at least that's what I sense, kind of in a way we're the common thing here is kind of, okay, how can we communicate growth together? And I think the next step then, it would be a vision. Okay, what structures could support that? Or
okay, so you were saying, I'm probably going to pause you because my memory is questionable. So like I can't. Anyway, you were saying that the sense you were having is people's vision on how people communicate each other, and that and I'm not sure if this is what you think or what you think that we think, that like what structures can be put into place to help facilitate like I'm guessing healthier culture of communication, I guess a culture of empathy ultimately.
And also what I like is kind of in a way that communication is a way to growth. So it's not just kind of something like, hey, we need to communicate because otherwise we explode altogether. But it's also like, hey, this is how we grow together, by communicating. And that's also where I sense what for me is kind of one of the things of what I've been busy with lately is kind of, okay, if you are in a group, what can a group do more than all the individuals apart? And I notice kind of in a way when there is a good communication, there is something, if a group is together, something magic can come out. What I don't see all the separate participants doing on its own, on its own.
So you were kind of reiterating, like, not reiterating, but just kind of expanding on like what kind of structural stuff that can be possible as far as people communicating or groups communicating outside of the world, that, you know, what kind of structures can basically make the sum greater than its parts as far as a group is concerned. What can a group do together to communicate that individuals can't really do on their own?
Yeah. And I think that's also, if I would say a vision, I would also say that my vision would be like that somehow that as humanity we find a way to move together and to act together in a way that respects everybody's thing. But that, and also for me, I don't know the English word, but it's some kind of effectiveness, that there is some effectiveness, that if big challenges are ahead of us, and I think climate change is a big challenge, but I don't necessarily need everybody to agree with me, but in the sense that if there is a big challenge for humanity, that we can say like, hey, we can handle it, and that we not start running all different directions and against each other. So this, for me, also this sense of effectiveness, that if we come to the point where it's a big challenge, that we can somehow handle that as humanity.
So it seems to me that you're trying to get like trying to envision your vision that you have is some way that humanity can communicate with each other to tackle big problems that individuals can't really take care of.
Yeah.
And that was your time. And unless
Okay.
you got something quick.
No, I can keep that for me. That's for the next part, next round.
Okay. All right. So, I guess I'll talk to Lena, but before I start, I might suggest that you pick Edwin, just keep a healthy circulation. You can do what you want, just a suggestion, but because I didn't want to. Anyway, whatever. I'm picking Lena, and let me start my time. Where do I begin? Richard.
Oh God.
Richard mentioned something about humanity working together, and I get it. I mean, but I've also, just from my understanding of history and human nature and politics, that a lot of oppressive power structures are formed from good intentions, and I'm very worried about giving any one group power over the decision making. I don't think all of humanity is ever going to agree on anything, really.
Okay. So I hear you're kind of being a realist here. So Richard's got this idealistic view, but you're worried about if humanity, they all work together, which is very unlikely, that they create that all the bad things come from good intentions, so that it could be oppressive.
Yes, because especially if someone really thinks they've got it all figured out and this is the way the world should be, that that type of personality can generally, what's the best way of putting this, justify doing whatever it takes to achieve that reality.
Yep. Okay, so you're thinking that if someone thinks they have it all and they know it all, that their way is the right way no matter what. And that's what you would be worried about.
Yes. Part of my affection towards free speech, so to speak, is it's part of my personality to kind of be contrarian, being kind of to go into groups and cause a little trouble. I think that's very important because I think it's really creepy when a lot of people just sort of start thinking the same, and because then they can be oppressive and they will shut out any other opposing views a lot of times. And I don't think anyone's got it all figured out. But as far as people coming together and tackling common problems effectively, that's not for me to decide. I feel like my role is to challenge a group's idea of what they think is going on.
So in summary, you think it's unhealthy if a group of people come together to try and tackle a situation, everyone's agreeing, they all have the same view, the same values, and it's not good, and there needs to be some someone that's contrary, you say, like yourself, who comes in and comes up with different ideas so that the people don't actually see the other side of things.
Yeah, but I try not to do it just I'm not an anarchist. I believe in law and order because I've lived in chaos before and it sucks. It sucks. The laws are there for a reason. And I got involved in a lot of this empathy circle stuff, like I said earlier, due to Antifa masking up and physically deplatforming and attacking groups that they don't like. That type of chaos I do not agree with. I agree with a little bit more linguistic chaos, to challenge people, but to straight up shut people up through force, that's not being a rebel. That's just being I don't know, a bunch of bad words I can think of. It's not good.
Okay, so you're saying you're not coming there with being contrary just to cause problems, but you want people to think about it and it's actually what you believe in also. That's from before then. From here is you think that rules exist for a reason and it needs to be organized but chaos can happen in words and speech, and people shouldn't shut people down just because they believe otherwise. And you seem to become a bit wary of XR doing that. I'm getting the feeling.
Well, you're
or
kind
that
of
they are doing that in your.
well, no, you're kind of assuming, but that's
Sorry.
that's fine. You're new.
Yeah.
You'll have your turn, but yeah, I do see XR like stopping traffic and stuff like that, and I don't view you guys as bad as Antifa. You guys are not masking up and attacking people, so I respect that. But also, like, it's not exactly an open dialogue when you're like stopping traffic and stuff. So, like, you know, I'm not
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
immediately opposed to that, but it could lead to that. So, like, and that's the thing, especially with younger people, you know, and people in their 20s, they like to, like chaos for chaos sake, you know, so you're going to attract a lot of kind of fringe elements. And that's what happened with Antifa here, you know, and, yeah. And I guess it's up to us older folks to kind of like tell the youngins to, like, you know, I get it, but you know, law and order is kind of cool too. And that's my time.
So you say law and order, that it's there for a reason and rules are there for a reason. And you see XR opposing basically views on people by stopping traffic, causing chaos. But what you think not they should be doing, but people, is using words to express what you feel and mean and listening to others.
Also,
I know that's a bad summary, but
no, that's fine. I'll help. That was right. But also, like, I added that I don't view you guys as bad as Antifa. You don't mask up and physically attack people, and I don't see you really trying to deplatform. So I haven't completely condemned you guys, but like, I could see it perhaps leading up to that, and so that's one thing I wanted to throw out there.
Yeah. So you see that exile, if it grows, or it will grow, or in the future that it could lead to chaos in words that you do not agree with, and you think there's other ways or better ways to do what exile does, because it could lead to
I
the
feel
wrong
hurt.
things.
Thank you.
Sorry. I don't know what to say, Edwin. I guess to complete the circle. Can
So
I
you're
talk
not
about
sure.
how
You're
I
not sure
feel
what
doing
to
this?
say, and yeah, you want to talk about how you feel. You can say anything you want. Yeah.
Uncomfortable. I'm speaking with people I don't know. Not used to this at all. I only got into XR involved 2 weeks ago, so very new to all this and slightly overwhelmed. There's a lot to learn, especially when people oppose your views. I want to hear what they say. That's why I'm here. But also, I want to know how to not talk back to them, but to answer their questions. Why am I doing what I'm doing, and what I believe in, and talking about climate change, and knowing how to express my feelings. So the facts are in my head. I just struggle to get it out in a coherent matter.
Okay, so you just got started with XR a couple of weeks ago, and you're feeling a bit awkward being in this group, maybe a bit nervous, awkward because you're with people you don't know. And what you're really interested in is like what do you explain to people what you're doing in XR? So I guess if you're on the streets and you're doing something, how do you talk to the people? And you're kind of looking for ideas and approaches for how to talk to them constructively.
Yeah, exactly. So not even just on the street, even with my family. My family don't agree with what I do. I believe, well, the contact's been less, so that's why I think this is happening. And when I come home for Christmas, for example, if they do ask, if they will ever ask, that I'm able to express it without getting too passionate about it, but expressing it a way that I'm also open to knowing that I'm heard, but also being able to listen to them, even if they don't agree with me. And it's really important. That's why I think this is so important, this learning curve of knowing if you are heard, but also being able to hear other people who don't agree with you.
So
that's
you're looking at it's like in your family, like it sounds like you like to be able to talk with your family about this, and how do you talk with them, and just how do you do it in this with listening, constructive listening where you're heard and they're heard, but it sounds like kind of avoiding conflict, and just how do you even do that? And you see kind of this process that we're doing here is maybe some insights and how to help with that.
Exactly. Yeah, I just think maybe it's not my family against it. They're just in denial or don't want to. I think a lot of people you talk to say, oh, don't tell me that. It's too sad. They don't want to listen. So I think that's a big thing I see around my friends and family is they just don't want to listen because it is sad. Nothing about climate change or what is happening is happy or is good. There are some things coming out of it that are happy, but it's difficult to talk to people that don't want to know, and you don't want to pounce on them with these facts, but you need someone that is there to listen and to talk to, and that's why I think XR gives you a community of people you can talk to openly about.
So you're saying that XR is a community where you can talk to people and communicate about these issues, but there's a lot of people, like perhaps your family or other friends, who kind of don't want to talk about climate change and all the issues related because it's too maybe painful, too sad, too negative. So they just maybe want to avoid it. And
thank you. I feel heard.
Okay. Then I'll speak to Richard. Let's see. Yeah, I was just thinking of what Lana was saying about her family, that just want to put out there that we do. My family is conservative, a lot of them are Trump supporters, and that we actually do family empathy circles together. So having a structured dialogue process has helped. So I guess I'm kind of promoting the empathy circle in the family as.
So what I hear is that you, it reminds you the talk, what Lana said, it reminds you of your own family. That you also have some, at least Trump supporters in your family, and that you also, from your experience, that empathy circles helps to stay connected or get connected, get reconnected.
Yeah, and like this.
You also, I sense some kind of a little bit between joy and shyness that you promote the empathy circles.
Yeah, I'm promoting the empathy circle. So I feel like it's self-promotion. So I feel self-conscious, like, yeah, we got to promote this, and then I feel like I'm just in promotion mode, and it seems like, yeah. So I think it's that promotion. The other thing is this, I'll be doing a mediation between two brothers who have been in conflict with each other. It has nothing to do with climate change or anything, but I mean, families in general, there's so much dysfunction, miscommunication in so many families. And so for, 15 years, they've been having issues, right? They can't talk to each other. So I come in as a mediator and basically just do an empathy circle with them. And, that kind of slows things down. People get heard. As a facilitator, kind of making sure they kind of stick to the rules, and then they slowly start, working through going through, it's like an onion, going through the conflict. They start feeling heard, and they come deeper and deeper to, find some sense of connection. So this, this listening is the core of the whole mediation, process. Too.
What I hear is that you're also mediating between two brothers. And what I find interesting to see with your hands, though, there was a lot of flow, and there is a lot of flow that you express with yours. I'm guessing that you also like the flow that's on there, and that it's you enjoy this aspect of getting things back into flow. And
there's sort of emotional movement, right? And I like to move with my hands. We're doing a lot of sitting. It's nice to move the body a little bit too. So for like dance too, yeah, so I do value that. So the thing is, it's hard to implement. It's like when people aren't familiar with it, like Lana's feeling a little awkward here. I don't know if it's the process or, new people, but implementing into the family was really hard. And even though I work with this all the time, they just didn't get it. And it's like, we don't want change, we don't want to talk in a structured way. And so it just takes a lot of work to kind of promote this in the culture, is what I'm seeing. Like, we want to promote this. We're basically talking about what you were saying, Richard, which is, you know, how do we just relate more effectively with each other? I mean, it's kind of at the core of, you know, just learning to have better relating with each other. And it's hard to kind of shift these patterns that people have, that we all have.
So what I hear is that you, when you were working with empathy circles, that you also got some resistance. What I find interesting, also seeing it back in your hands, there was some tension in it. And you kind of also seeing like, hey, that is, you know, getting that back to flow again, and that's
Yeah, so it is that, and how to overcome it. So that's really, it's like we have the vision of a culture based on empathy, of people dialoguing, working out problems, but, you know, how do we kind of get there? And it's not easy. It's a real struggle, and I think that's part of it with XR, that, you know, I've been wanting to have empathy circles with the leadership in XR. And I know Lana says there's no leaders, you know, but they call them organizers, but I would say it's leaderful. You know, it's not leaderless, it's leaderful organization. You can kind of take leadership, but so the main organizers, to have them take part so that it would model it to the other people in the community. So I really see that that's something I've been trying to work on, is to have the leadership do these empathy circles to model it to other people. So
what I hear is that you use the word struggle, and also tell that you're trying to get the leaders, although there are no official leaders, that you see that some people have more influence or more effect, and you want to talk with them, or you want to get them involved in empathy circles.
Mm-hmm.
And that until now, that your enthusiasm wasn't met by their enthusiasm in doing these circles.
Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but I feel fully heard. Yep, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
So, yeah, can I jump back to you, Edwin? Kind of.
Okay, listening.
Yeah, when it's about, I also joined Fridays for Futures, just the children thing, and we were doing some bike ride through Berlin, which was interesting, that a lot of cars had to stop because we were cycling there. And for me, I noticed I was really interested in the people sitting in the car there and observing them. And some people were sitting next to each other and making this. You could see that they were frustrated. Other people were just on their telephone, kind of, okay, I'm going to spend my time somewhere else. And one thing that I noticed is this kind of, I do see the power of saying stop. You know, if something is in a kind of an overdrive situation, there is some power in just saying, hey, stop. And then the interesting thing, what I see with, once the people are stopped, kind of, you know, they're sitting in their car and they literally stopped. What do you do then? And I think that's kind of an interesting thing that I also want to explore with this my own project with the glasses, with the virtual reality. If you get people to stop, you have their attention. What do you do then? And I think listening is a big part of that. So kind of, you know, and in a way, stop the treadmill of the things that are going on. And once it is stopped, make connection and start listening. I think that's a cool thing to do.
So something you've really been thinking about is, or you see the need for, if there's a system kind of going, that you can stop the system, but then what do you do? How do you engage the people who have been stopped? And you saw that with your bike Fridays for the Future bike riding, where the cars are stopped, and then each person in the car is sort of reacting differently to that stop. Some people are angry, some people are just, you know, doing other things, and you're just wondering, how do you engage with these people, and what strategies do you use to engage? And you just see that listening is a core part of that.
And also what I'm kind of, I'm a little bit jumping around now. But also one thing that I kind of see is that I have been at the climate, the climate was also the conference. There was somebody who was kind of some top scientist, and I could see her talk, and I could also sense for me that she was trustworthy, and also she's shown just the facts, like, okay, how it goes with climate. And that's just, the facts are just terrifying. At the same time, and that was interesting, and I think that's why I know there are a lot of people who are kind of in the camp of climate deniers. They're saying like, yeah, if I don't eat my meat, that's not going to help. And the interesting thing, and it was also what was on the stage there is some truth in that, kind of in a way, if a person or if a country stops eating meat or goes all to solar energy or so, it doesn't have so much effect. There is some truth in that, because also what was shown there with there are some structural things, there are some corporations who do basically almost like 80 or 90% of all the CO2. So in that sense, I find it also interesting, like, hey, there is some truth. And at the same time, it's almost like it's a value. It's a demonstration of values also against each other, and it's not so much about tackling an issue. I think there is a serious issue. I think that needs to be tackled. And in a way, instead of focusing at the issue and focusing at the problem, we end up in some kind of value demonstration where everybody puts up a sign like, I am for empathy, and somebody else said, I'm for free speech, and somebody else said, and in a way, we are all showing what we value. And at the same time, the issue that's there on the background, we don't address that because everybody's so busy with, hey, empathy, free speech kind of.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you went to this workshop or this talk where they were laying out just the problem of the climate change, what's going to happen. So they're just showing that it's kind of going in that direction, it's the problems of it. But then you're looking at, it's a little bit different, is that there's people who are saying, what can I do about it? It's not going to make any difference if I just, don't eat meat or something. And you're sort of acknowledging that there's a truth to that, but then you're also seeing that people are sort of advocating for these different values, just kind of putting it out there, be it empathy or whatever the thing is, they're putting it out there, but they're not sort of addressing, taking action on the problem itself. So there's sort of a disconnect from focusing on taking action on the problem itself towards, just having maybe a values battle or something like that.
And also that was something that I saw today. It's kind of, there is a lot of, including me, I'm with my sign, empathy, and somebody else is there with red meat, and everybody is standing up for his value, which is cool, it's kind of cool to have values, but the thing is kind of, how can all those values, how can they be combined in solving a serious issue?
Mm-hmm. So you're even seeing you're playing part of the game too, in that sense, the values game, because you're holding up your sign for empathy, and you're kind of thinking, well, is this effective? Maybe it's better to kind of apply, actually take constructive, address the problem and do something constructive on the problem.
No.
So, okay.
I like to talk more, but I know that my time.
I know. You got to wait for the next time around. Yeah, you really want to talk. I understand that too. So I'll speak to David.
I'm listening.
Well, in terms of what Richard is saying about, taking action, and I think that the empathy circle is sort of a taking of an action. It kind of ties in with what your concerns were in terms of, having a vision and, using authoritarian means. You have fear of authoritarian means being applied to this, this idealized vision. And I think there's the part of the empathy circle, or what we're doing with empathic listening is the means. So the means are the end, in a sense. So as we're kind of practicing listening and dialoguing with each other, we're sort of doing the means, our empathic means towards empathic ends, I guess.
Okay, let's see if I can do this. Yeah, you were you were kind of reiterating my concerns about people becoming too authoritarian about like their idea of what we should do as as humanity is concerned, and that you kind of went off into like doing these empathy circles is kind of your way of creating a means to be able to communicate with each other to figure some of this stuff out.
Yeah, so if I want a culture of empathy, I can't go beat people up for creating a culture of empathy, use violence, etc. I have to use empathic means to get there. So, the empathy circle is an empathic means then. So I guess I just wanting to get really clear on that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's actually, I like that. You I guess you're kind of reiterating like how the means reflect the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so like, yeah. So the, like if you're trying to promote a culture of empathy, you can't really force feed that by beating people up very empathetically to promote empathy. So in order to support to promote a culture of empathy, you need to use empathetic means to reach that empathetic ends.
I actually saw Gloria Steinem, the feminist, American feminist, had said something along those lines. She says the means are the end. You can't, fight, hierarchy, authoritarianism with more hierarchy and authoritarianism, right? So you got to have the empathic means to create the empathic society that you want. So, so anyway, that's something always stuck in my mind is someone, prominent person saying that.
So you were saying that you saw or met, or I'm not sure what, this feminist.
The Gloria Steinem, yeah.
This feminist bringing up the point that you cannot fight like hierarchy and authoritarianism by using more hierarchy and authoritarianism. So the means need to somewhat reflect the ends.
Yeah, and that brings me to Extinction Rebellion. That what I would like to see within Extinction Rebellion is a clear articulation of the ends being dialogue. It's sort of in the demand, the third demand of a citizens' assembly is about dialogue between everyone. It's like, so it's in there, but it could be even more articulated and clear, so that if there's a demonstration, that to be clear on who you want to dialogue with. Like there's demonstrations here in the Bay Area, and they're not saying who they want to talk to. It's like, let's block the bank, and then that's it. We kind of express our anger or upset or get the media, but it's like, it seems to me that the end would be to have a dialogue with the CEO of the bank, right? It's like, we're doing this and we would like a dialogue with you, and you're not. So first you start by saying we would like a dialogue with the politicians or the CEOs or whoever. And then they usually will say, well, we don't have time for you. And then you can do nonviolent direct action to get their attention. But the demand is to have a dialogue with them. And so that basic structure, I don't see, is not kind of firmly implemented in XR. So that's already.
Okay. So you were saying we wanted to bring this back to XR, and your affiliation with them is that you've noticed in one of their demands is dialogue, and you would like for them to expand on what that means. Like if they block a bank, they'll get the media coverage and stuff, but yet they don't really say who they want to talk to. Yet it's supposed to be one of their demands is dialogue. So you'd like to see them expand on that.
Yeah, there's more to it, but that's my time.
Okay. So I guess to keep the rotation, I'll talk to Lena.
Hey.
Yeah, I kind of help you clear up stuff for you with this process and my own take on stuff and a possible question. Like, you were kind of frustrated with this circle, like you wanted to ask questions, but you don't really know how to do that in this format. And I just wanted to say that this format isn't a debate. It's more about sharing. If it was a debate, it would just be like, say, I would just go back and forth with me and Edwin back and forth the whole time and like cut out you two together because I want to respond directly to what he wants to say. But we do kind of a healthy rotation so everyone can kind of get their ideas out there.
So how you perceived me was that I was frustrated that it's more so it's not a debate, but it's more about sharing your ideas, getting your ideas out there and being heard, and then that everyone gets their own time.
Yes, I would, but I think there's empathy circles are good for getting people that normally wouldn't be heard. I like how fair that is, but also it isn't a debate, and a debate needs to happen on pretty much anything. So I'd like to see like a little bit more structured debates, because I think debates do happen. Do need to happen, and we can't really answer each other's. We can answer each other kind of indirectly. You can get more. You get more creative with this as you go on about like how to answer people indirectly. And I've kind of got experience in doing that just from going to 12-step drug recovery meetings because our format's very similar. And it's not a debate; it's people sharing their experience. So that's one reason why I kind of picked up on this fairly quickly. But yeah, debates are important, but this is not a debate, so to speak. So I see it does have limitations as far as that's concerned.
So what you're highlighting is that this empathy circle is more about sharing your ideas, but not expecting someone to contradict or agree with you. It's not a debate, you're saying. It's just sharing, giving everyone an equal opportunity. But you do see that it has value, it has great value, but there is also need to have a more structured debate so that everyone can be heard. And that's what you would like to highlight.
Because I think
I see you frowning there.
I don't know, like whatever. It's probably me thinking. It takes a lot of strain for me. But like Richard kind of touched on this. It's like he was kind of talking about like how do we resolve issues if everyone's just kind of saying I'm for empathy, I'm for red meat, yet like, and I'm guessing in his worldview the world is ending, or something. So like how do you address that? It's great for everyone who has an opinion, but there's things that need to be addressed. And I would like in response to that say that debates do need to happen, but this isn't a debate, but it is a good container for people to kind of get used to each other and used to being able to be exposed to ideas that they might not agree with.
So to summarize, you're hearing what Richard says with about empathy, red meat, everyone having their values and stuff. But you think that the Empathy Cafe is great for other people actually being exposed to different ideas, not having to respond to it, but actually getting, creativity was earlier on, but not having to respond to it, but people being open, sharing, and you listening to other people's ideas, even if you don't agree with them.
Yeah, and I guess I as far as like XR and just the climate change people in general, addressing them as far as debate's concerned, they don't really debate. They're just like the science is settled. Everyone else is like some kind of like denier heathen. You can't question us. It's science. Yeah, I'm just like, but scientists are corruptible. Data can be selectively, highlighted and certain facts presented and other facts sort of kind of buried. So, I mean, it's not, I mean, everything is corruptible, and what I'm trying to get at is their lack of wanting to debate this automatically throws up. I'm not a scientist, but that me just knowing people, that throws up red flags. If you can't debate your issue, then like I'm not going to listen to you rant at me. I'm not an expert but I challenge all the client scientists to sit down with experts that disagree with them. I've seen a couple of debates like that, but not that many. A lot of people are for like like trying to promote like climate change is destroying us. Don't really want to sit down and argue this stuff. They just want action.
Okay, before I forget all that, oh God, as soon as I start talking, I forget. But what you're saying is that XR, or these climate change activists and so forth, they're always saying that this scientist said this and this said that, and they're not up for debate. So they're not willing to talk to people that have opposing views and being able to debate with them, saying, this is what I've heard, this is what I've heard. And what you'd like to see more is that these people are more willing to go into debates with people that oppose their views or have different views, especially scientists going into one room with people that are saying climate change isn't real because of this and that fact, and then with others saying this and that is real. You've seen a few, but it's not enough.
Yeah, my time is basically up, but I just wanted to throw out there that what was I going to say? That yeah, if this issue really is as important as it is, I think it should be on television 24/7, and there should be people debating it. I don't like listening to one person's point of view. I like debates. I like experts in the field who just expert in this point of view and this expert in this point of view, going at it, and you can kind of tell like which idea is going to win by how they respond to each other. So I'd like to see that. But as far as people stopping traffic, I'm like, what? Okay, you believe it? Whatever. But my time's up.
Summarizing, you want more debates. If climate change is a real thing, you want debates on the news 24/7. Yeah. Oh God, I'm trying not to respond directly to that because it's not a debate, but sharing. Who do I choose? I don't know.
You can kind of do it indirectly.
I'll choose Richard. No, I just agree with you, David, that debating is needed. My problem is I'm so bad at expressing my views, and even though I do read up a lot on things, it all gets muddled up, as I've said, and it's very hard for me to go into a debate. I'd love to learn how to do it. I've been attending workshops now, and so I think that is really important that XR goes into this more, that it's not just doing all these actions, annoying people, but also explaining why they're doing stuff and open to being opposed or other people having different values, different opinions.
So what I hear is that you also like to see more debate, and that you also am training yourself. That first you say like you don't feel so skilled yet, or you don't feel comfortable with debating, and you're training yourself. You also want to grow in that, not only yourself but also as a movement. That XR is kind of debate. Can debate. And then I forgot the last part. You can.
No, I think that's good. No, just learning how to debate and going into like reading up on more and more stuff and trying to create a wider vision of the world. And basically what I'm doing is on social media, I'm following people that I wouldn't normally follow, that sometimes oppose what I think and believe, just to see how they talk about something, so that I can maybe, if I think they are strong enough in how they talk about something, that they actually open up my mind to different things. But that also conflicts obviously with my values. I'm trying to not set some values, but think, who am I as a person? What do I stand for? How do I see myself in the future? And who do I want to be around? And the more and more I read, the more and more difficult this is getting, because just taking, okay, sorry, Richard, before I talk more.
So what I hear is that you also you read a lot, also online. What I also hear is that for you, expressing your values, who you are, who you want to be with, and what you stand for, that's important. And that it's you haven't found a clear way yet how to combine it with debating, but you want to integrate both your values and this debating skills.
Yeah, and going away from debating, well, it's also more happening in my head of reading more and more, just being a vegetarian. And I do this for moral, ethical reasons, but then then people ask me, why aren't you a vegan then? Because I do believe that it's still animal cruelty and so forth. And it just, the more I read about it, the more difficult it gets, and the more anxiety or the more anxious I feel about it. Not doing enough, not being who I am as a person, but then thinking, well, some people don't think and they're happy. And this kind of debate is going on in my head with engaging with topics that I believe in are against my values, this and that, broadening my knowledge, but then saying, this is making my life really difficult. It would be so much easier if I didn't know about all these things. And yeah.
What I hear is when you read, there's also some anxiety coming up, that you have this inner debate, kind of, I guess, between two voices. And there is a part of you that also says, like, hey, if I wouldn't know all these things, life would be more easy, and there would not be so much inner debate, and there is some ease in not being aware of things and not having to take them into account.
And I think exactly, I think that's where the denial of some people come into, where they don't want to approach these topics. Yes, it would be so much easier, but now that I know, I can't go back, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I hear is that
but that's why also I joined XR. Sorry, no. And you don't have the community around you that has the same thoughts. It's not good. You get more and more anxious. So at least joining XR in the regenerative culture, this empathy cafe, for example, I'm being exposed to more and more things that align with my values, and making me happier, I hope.
One thing that I hear from you is that XR is also kind of almost like a mirror of your values, kind of that it helps you to reflect your values, and that you also feel supported with a group of people who share your values and openly express them.
Yeah, I probably misspoke. It's not just about sharing values, but actually people being open enough to talk to, even if you don't agree with them or they don't agree with you. No one is shutting you down. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's an important aspect that you would like to say, that there is also this openness for other opinions that you would like to stress, and that it's not just an in crowd of people having their own values, but there is also this inherent value of being open to other people.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Richard.
Yeah. Okay, so what shall I do? I have to first, because if you see me all kinds of things, I'm cracking nuts, so that's the weird movements that you see me makes once in a while. Let's see. Yeah, Lena, would you like to reflect back to me? Kind of
sure.
Just jumping. You know? I just start babbling and see where it goes. So I find it interesting that we come to this point of values, and that it's also good to be in a group that kind of represents your values. It reminds me of this metaphor, if you are kind of a being, or if you are some being and you radiate light. If you are a light, you can never see yourself unless it reflects to something else. And that's also kind of why I live in different cities, because I sense that every city where I live in reflects some different parts of me, or it helps me to see myself in a way. And I think that's also an interesting aspect of kind of this, why it's good to be in a group that share your values, because it helps you to see yourself or so. That's kind of one thing that that kind of.
So what you're saying is, speaking on values from where I came, is that you're glad that you're in a group with people who share similar values, because you feel like it mirrors how you feel, or your own values. And also when you move around to different countries, it's good to explore the different sides, aspects of your values, so you're not one person and you fit into one place.
Mm-hmm. And I also know, for example, what there is a part of me that's also that likes to see everything. And I noticed that next, kind of in 2 weeks, I will give a workshop that is dancing with climate deniers, which is meant for people who are stuck with how do I deal with my family who is a climate denier. So I do a workshop how you can dance with climate deniers. And the interesting thing, when I posted that yesterday to a group of women, I got some really negative reactions for that. And I noticed there is a part of me that wants to be reflected in the sense that I see like, hey, you know, it's interesting to listen to different kind of groups, you know, kind of. And I noticed that aspect was not mirrored there. And then I noticed like this value of openness, of this value of seeing everybody and everything, and kind of this diversity of opinions, this diversity. I noticed that's also a strong value that I would envision in a culture of empathy, that there is, for me, a vision of the future, or a vision of empathy would also be that there is some group of people that share my value about listening and reflecting and respecting all kinds of different values, and somehow seeing the value of this whole bunch of diversity of opinions and values.
Okay. That's becoming a lot. So in 2 weeks, you've got a workshop with climate deniers that you're hosting, I believe. And you see that reflectiveness with empathy and openness and diversification is all very important and part of your core values. I'm getting a feeling you keep bringing back to them. And so when you approached a few women in Berlin, you say you live, about it, they had a negative reaction to this workshop. And it's something you realize it's so important for you, this openness of talking to other people that may not agree with you.
Mm-hmm. And for me, it's also this value of holding things next to each other that don't necessarily seem to stand together or so, kind of. And I know that's a value that I believe in. It's also a value that I want to practice. How can I hold all those things together? It's also a little bit an NVC, like how can you hold all those different things? And for me, how shall I formulate that? That would definitely be part of a vision in something that I want to live or want to relate to, kind of a kind of a community that's able to do that with me, holding all those things together, and maybe not knowing how everything fits together, and that some things might contradict each other, but that there is this wish to look for value in everything or so.
So it seems like another core value for you is this kind of coexisting and living with people that you don't agree with, that have different values, and that it's not just with you but everyone else, that we live in a world or community where you can all coexist even if you don't believe in the same thing.
Yeah. And there's also this kind of wish, or there is this kind of potential, what I see, this kind of, and I see in different groups that I kind of travel between, seeing like, oh wow, there's this really huge potential there. But there's also something that you might not see. And oh, this group is also really great, you know, and kind of how much power there will be if these values could be combined or something like. And that's also what intrigues me about Extinction Rebellion. And also feeling the power of saying collectively stop, you know, and also kind of.
I think we need to summarize, but basically you think that working together we would be a lot more powerful, even if we have different values and opposing views, that together there could be this power you wish and you hope and you think there could be, and it would be interesting to see that come to fulfillment.
Yeah, and also kind of, especially what I sense with Extinction Rebellion, what's for me kind of a core strength that I don't see with other groups yet, this power of collectively saying stop, kind of, and also feeling how important that is. And even if the strategy is kind of, you know, the strategy is the second thing, but seeing this core power of collectively saying, okay, this is enough, and making that clear. This I find it very powerful.
So linking that core value back to XR is, as a community, even with opposing values, different values, if we all say stop, seeing how much power we could, or XR could harness. I think the time's up. I don't know what to say anymore.
You've got maybe you got about 3 minutes if you're gonna do a shorter one, because we're gonna.
Oh no, I'm good, thanks. I'll listen.
Okay. Oh, well then select someone and just say, I don't know what to say, and they'll reflect back, and then it's their turn.
Okay, Edwin.
Okay, so I'm hearing you don't know what to say.
No. Oh, you want me to talk for 3 minutes?
No. I'm reflecting back what you're saying.
Oh, sorry.
And then you just say,
Yeah.
I feel fully heard, and then it'll be my turn. That's a way of passing on,
Okay.
staying within
Sorry.
the structure.
Well, Edwin, I feel fully heard.
Okay, good. Then I'll speak to, I guess, David. And it's going to be very short, just like 3 minutes, because we got to go back to the larger room.
All right, you time yourself. You're the.
Oh, okay, I'll take care of the time. So yeah, I guess one thought I had was I like the visioning question. I wonder about having a few meetings on the vision. It's like what would be a good next topic if we keep this topic for a while. So I'm just kind of thinking about that sort of next steps for the.
Okay, so you're kind of just you're wrapping it up, and you're kind of thinking ahead, and you've liked this topic on this empathy circle, and you're thinking about whether or not you should continue this or not. So that's kind of what's on your head right now.
Yeah. So if we have a vision of where we want to go to, I think the first thing is having the vision well articulated and clear to make it. And what are the different issues around it? Because I have that same. For me, the vision is too. Part of it is what Richard is talking about. Is there sort of a celebration and enjoyment of just hearing all the different points of view that people have, like just really enjoying it, but having it be in a constructive way. Like, you're always doing the contrarian for the liberals, and I really enjoy that. It's like it makes life more interesting. It makes it more colorful. It makes it sort of emotionally more rich. So it's sort of that richness that I value.
So you were kind of reflecting on your vision. You kind of shared part of that with what Richard said about like embracing, accepting other ideas, or listening to other ideas, or having other ideas, participating, so to speak, in that you were reflecting on my shtick of being somewhat of a contrarian does make the discussion a little bit more richer in a way.
Yeah, when after I graduated from high school, the first thing I did is I took off and traveled around the world for like 10 years. And it's a little bit like, I think, Richard's experience of being in a different city. You go into a different country, and there's like a whole different emotional feel to the whole space. And it's very interesting. I kind of learn a lot through that. So yeah, I don't know why I'm going on about that, but just that richness. And I guess the other thing is I keep seeing, with the political left, with my disappointment is that by not listening, it seems like the left and right can come together if they just listen to each other. If there's a group that's willing to stand up like we're doing for mutual dialogue, that they can actually work out issues. It's not like they're so polarized that they can't work things out.
Okay.
I'm just pretty convinced about that.
Sorry to memory. So you were kind of just reflecting about how in the past you've traveled. You did some traveling after college, and you were able to relate with what after high school. You were kind of relating with what Richard was saying about being exposed to like new cities. Kind of cities are like their own entities. A lot of times they got their own like kind of feeling and culture and stuff, and you think it makes life richer to be exposed to different like viewpoints and ideas and vibes, I guess. And you were talking about how you're kind of disappointed with the left about maybe not being open to new ideas. Do you think there is, or open to the debate really? And you do think that the left and the right can come together on some things if there's a group that kind of champions that?
Yeah, and that's us.
Okay.
So with that, we got to go back to the main room. So it's going to close all the rooms. We're going to head back. So thank you very much.
See you there.
See you there in a second. Okay, people should be popping in any minute. They get a 1-minute warning. And
I wonder, like with this, is the does your computer act as the server? So it depends, like whoever's closest to you has the best connection. Probably.
no, I don't think so. I think they.
Does Zoom have its own servers that host?
Yeah, I don't know how they do that. I imagine so. I don't think it has to do with location. Yeah. Okay, I think we're waiting for the other group to pop in.
Some of us just popped in.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording and